Good day, I'm John Paul Galit. I am reporting about Chapter 4 titled by Framework for Project Management. According to Andrin Watt, many different professions contribute to the theory and practice of project management. Engineers and architects have been managing major projects since prehistory. Since approximately the 1960s, there have been efforts for professionalize the practice of project management as a specialization of its own. There are many active debates around this. Should project management be a professional in the same way as engineering, accounting, and medicine? These have professional associations that certify who is legally allowed to use the job title and who can legally practice the profession. They also provide a level of assurance of quality and discipline members who have behaved inappropriately. Another ongoing debate is how much industry knowledge is required of a seasoned project manager. How easily can a project manager from one industry, say IT, transition to another industry, such as hospitality? There are two major organizations with worldwide impact: world impact on the practice of project management. The first is the Project Management Institute, or the PMI, with world headquarters in the United States, and International Project Management Association, or the IPMA, with world headquarters in Switzerland. Next one is American National Standards Institute, or ANSI, standards developer, and also has the distinction of being the first organization to have its certification program attained. Next one is the um, International Organization for Standardization, the ISO. In 1901, recognition in 2008, the organization reported more than 260,000 members in over 171 countries. PMI has headquarters in Pennsylvania, US, and also has offices in other countries. So what is PMBOK? PMBOK is a fundamental knowledge you need to managing a project categorized into 10 knowledge areas. Number 1, the managing integration. Projects have all types of activities going on. There is a need to keep the whole thing moving collectively, integrating all of the dynamics that takes place. Managing integration is about developing the project character, scope statement, and plan to direct, manage, monitor, and control project change. Next one is managing scope. Projects need to define parameter or scope, and this must be broken down and managed through a work breakdown structures or WBS. Managing scope is about planning, definition, WFS creation, certification, and control. Third, managing time or the schedule. Projects have a definite beginning and a definite ending date. Therefore, there is a need to manage the budget time according to a project schedule. Managing time schedule is about definition, sequencing, resource, and duration estimating, schedule development, and schedule control. Fourth, managing cost. Projects consume resources and therefore there is a need to manage the investments with the realization of creating value. Definites derive exceed the amount spent, or the managing cost is about resource planning, cost estimating, budgeting, and control. Managing quality. Projects involves specific deliverables or work products. These deliverables needs to meet project objectives and performance standards. Managing quality is about quality planning, quality assurance, and quality control. Acronym is managing human resources. Project consists of teams and you need to manage project teams. During the life cycle of the project, finding the right people, managing their outputs, and keeping them on schedule is a big part of managing a project. Managing human resources is about human resources planning, hiring, and developing and managing a project team. 7. Managing communication. Projects invariably touch lots of people, not just the end user or the customer, who benefit directly from the project outcomes. This can include project participants, managing who oversee the project, and external stakeholders who have an interest in the success of the project. Then, the managing communication is about communications planning, information distribution, performance reporting, and stakeholders management. 8. The managing risk. Projects are discovery-driven process, often uncovering new customer needs and identifying critical issues not previously disclosed, but projects also encounter unexpected events such as project team members resigning, budgeted resources suddenly changing, the organization becoming unstable, and newer technologies being introduced. There is a real need to properly identify various risks and manage the risk. Managing risk is about risk planning and identification, risk analysis, the qualitative and the quantitative. Then, risk response in action, planning, and risk monitoring, and also the control. 9. Managing procurement. Projects procure the service of outside vendors and contractors, including the purchase of equipment. There is a need to manage how vendors are selected and managed within the project life cycle. Managing procurement is about acquisition and contracting plans, sellers, responses and selections, contract administrations, and contract closure. The last one is managing stakeholders. Every project impacts people and organizations and is impacted by people and organization. By identifying stakeholders early and as they arise and change throughout the project is a key success factor. Because the managing stakeholder is about identifying stakeholders and their interest level and their potential to influence the project, and managing and controlling the relationships and communications between stakeholders and the project. This is the big framework for managing projects, and if you want to be effective in managing projects, then you need to be effective in managing each of the 10 knowledge areas that make up PMBOK. Introduction to the project management knowledge areas. Projects are divided into components, and project manager must be knowledge in each area. Each of these areas of knowledge will be explored in more depth in subsequent chapters. Project startup and integration. The startup of a project is similar to the startup of a new organization. The project leader develops the project infrastructure used to design and execute the project. The project management team must develop alignment among the major stakeholders, those who have a share or interest on the project during the early phases or definition phases of the project. The project manager will conduct one or more kick-off meetings or alignment decisions to bring the various parties of the project together and begin the project team building required to operate efficiently during the project. Because during project startup, the project management team defines the scope of work and develops a primary schedule and conceptual budget. The project team builds a plan for executing the project based on the project profile. Then, the plan for developing and tracking the detailed schedule, the procurement plan, and the plan for building the budget and estimating the and tracking costs are developed during the startup. The plans for information technology, communication, and tracking clients' satisfaction are all developed during the startup phase of the project. Project scope. The project scope is a document that defines the parameters, factors that define a system and determine its behavior of the project. What work is done within the boundaries of the project and the work that is outside the project boundaries. The scope of work, or the SAW, is typically a written document that defines what work will be accomplished by the end of the project, the deliverables of the project. The project scope defines what will be done, and the project execution plans defines how the work will be accomplished. No template works for all projects because some projects have a very detailed scope of work and some have a short summary document. So, the quality of the scope is measured by the ability of the project manager and project stakeholders to develop them and maintain a common understanding of what products or services the project will deliver. Then, the size and detail of the project scope is related to complexity complexity project a profile of the project. Then, a more complex project often requires a more detailed and comprehensive scope documents. According to PMI, the scope statement should include the following. One is the description of the scope, project acceptance criteria, project deliverables, project exclusions, project constraints, and project assumption. Project schedule and time management. The definition of the project success often includes completing the project on time. The development and management of a project schedule that will complete the project on time is a primary responsibility of the project manager, and completing the project on time requires the development of a realistic plan and the effective management of the plan. On smaller projects, project managers may lead the development of the project plan and build a schedule to meet the plan. On larger and more complex projects, a project controls team that focuses on both cost and schedule planning and controlling functions will assist the project management team is developing the plan and tracking progress against the plan. Then, to develop the project schedule, the project team does an analysis of the project scope, contract, and other information that helps the team define the project deliverables. Then, based on this information, the project team develops a milestone schedule. The milestone schedule establishes key dates throughout the life of a project that must be met for the project to finish on time. Then, the key dates are often established to meet contractual obligations or establish intervals that will reflect appropriate progress for the project. For less complex projects, a milestone schedule may be sufficient for tracking the progress of the project. For more complex projects, a more detailed schedule is required. Next one is a project cost. The definition of the project success often includes completing the projects within budget. Developing and controlling a project budget that will accomplish the project objectives is a critical project management skill Although clients expect the project to be executed efficiently, cost pressures vary on project. On some project completion or end date is the largest contribution to the project complexity of the development of a new drug to address a critical health issue. The project of a new product that will generate critical cash flow for a company and the competitive advantage for a company to be first in the marketplace with a new technology are examples of projects with schedule pressures that override project cost. The accuracy of the project budget is related to the amount of information known by the project team. In the early stages of the project, the amount of the information needed to develop detailed budget is often missing. And to address the lack of information, the project team develops different levels of the project budget estimates. Conceptual estimate is developed with the least amount of knowledge. The major input into the conceptual estimate is expert knowledge or past experience of project manager who has executed a similar project in the past can use those costs to estimate the project or the cost of the current project. The project quality. The project quality focus on the end product or services deliverables that reflect the purpose of the project. The project manager is responsible for developing a project execution approach that provides for a clear understanding of the expected project deliverables and the quality specifications. The project manager of a housing constructions project not only need to understand which rooms in the house will be carpeted, but also what grade and carpet is needed. A room with a high volume of traffic will need a high grade carpet. The project manager is responsible for developing a project quality plan that defines the quality expectations and assures that the specification and expectation are met. To developing a good understanding of the project deliverables through documenting specification and expectation is critical a good quality plan. The processes for ensuring the specification and expectation are met integrated into the project execution plan. Just as a project budget and completion dates may change over the life of the project, the project specification may also change. Because it changes in quality specification are typically managed in the same process as cost or schedule changes. The impact of the changes is analyzed for impact of costs and schedules, and with appropriate approvals, changes are made to the project execution plan. Project team, human resources, and communication. Staffing the project with the right skills at the right place and at the right time is important responsibility of the project management team. The project usually has two types of team members, which is the functional and the process managers. First, the functional managers. So what is it? A functional managers and team focus on the technology of the project. On construction project, the functional managers would include the engineering manager and construction superintendents, while the process managers, the project management team also include project process managers. The project controls team would include process managers who have expertise in estimating, cost tracking, planning, and execute a successful project. Communication. Completing a complex project successfully requires teamwork, and teamwork requires good communication among team members, of course. If those team members work in the same building, they can arrange regular meetings, simply stop by each other's office functions. Many complex projects is today global economy involves team members from wildly separated locations, and the types of meetings that work within the same building are not possible. Teams that use electronic methods of communicating without face-to-face meetings are called virtual teams, like we do. Communicating can be divided into two categories. Di ko na siya nalagay sa PowerPoint, pero ito yon. The synchronous and synchronous. Basta ayun nakalagay ito. If all the parties to the communication are taking part is in the exchange at the same time, the communication is synchronous. A telephone conference call in an example of synchronous communication when participants are not separating at the same time. The communication is asynchronous. Okay, the two categories pala is the synchronous, synchronous, and the asynchronous. May A naman siya sa una. Asynchronous. Ano yun? Then, next, the project risk. Risks exist on all projects. The role of the project management team is to understand the kinds of level of risk on the project and then to develop and implement plans to mitigate this risk. Risk represents the likelihood that an event will happen during the life of the project that will negatively affect the achievement of project goals. The type and amount of risk varies by industry type, complexity, and pace of the project. The project risk plan will also reflect the risk profile of the project manager and key stakeholders. People have different comfort levels with risk, and some members of the project team will be more risk averse than others. Project procurement. The procurement effort of the projects varies widely and depends on the type of the project. Often the client organization will provide procurement services on less complex projects. In this case, the project team and identities the materials, equipment, and supplies needed by the project and provides product specifications and a detailed delivery schedule. When the procurement department of the parent organizations provide procurement services, a liaison from the project can help the procurement team better understand the unique requirements and the project and the time sensitive or critical items of the project schedule. On larger, more complex projects, personnel and dedicated to procuring and managing the equipment supplies kinemisu. Yan. Because the temporary nature of projects, equipment, supplies, and materials are procured as part of the product of the project for the execution of the project. Then, for the example, the bricks procured for a construction project would be procured for the product of the project, and mortar mixer would be equipment procured for the execution of the project work. At the end of the project, equipment bought or rented for the execution of the work of the project are sold, returned to rental organization, or response of some other way. Project stakeholder management. People and organization can have many different relationships to the project. Most commonly, these relationships can be grouped into those who be impacted by the project and those who can impact the project. A successful project manager will identify stakeholders early in the project. For each stakeholders, it is important to identify what they want or need and what influence or power they have over the project. Based on this information, the need to communicate with the stakeholders management plan. So, ayan. Stakeholders, ang tawag dito stakeholders register. Scrum Development Overview. Scrum is another formal project management or the product development methodology and part of Agile project management. Scrum is a term from rugby scrimmage that means a way of restarting a game. It's like restarting the product efforts every X weeks. It's based on the idea that you do not really know how to plan the whole project at front. So you start to build empirical data then replan and iterate from there. Scrum methodology defines several major roles. They are: the first is produce owners, essentially the business owner of the project who knows the industry, the market, the customers, and the business goals of the project. The product owner must be intimately involved with the Scrum process, especially the planning and the demonstration parts of the sprint. Scrum Master, somewhat like a project manager, but not exactly. The Scrum Master's duties are essentially to remove barriers that impede the progress of the development team. Reach the product owner how to maximize return on investments, ROI, ayun yung return on investments. In terms of development effort, facilitate creativity and empowerment of the team, improve the productivity of the team, involves engineering practices and tools, run daily stand-up meetings, track progress, and ensure the health of the team. Next one is development team. Self-organizing or the light touch leadership, empowered group, they participated in planning and estimating for each sprint to development and demonstrate the results at the end of the sprint. It has been shown that the ideal size for a development team is 7 plus half by -2. The development team can be broken into teamlets, and swarm on user stories, which are created in the sprint planning sessions rather. The project management's office. Many large and even medium-sized organizations have created a department to oversee and, and support projects throughout the organization. This is an attempt to reduce the high numbers of failed projects. See the projects management overview chapter. These offices are usually called the project management office of or PMO. The PMO or the project management office may be the home of all the project managers in an organization, on it may simply be a resource for all project managers who report to their line areas. Typical objectives of a PMO are: help ensure that projects are aligned with organizational objectives, provide templates and procedures for use by project managers, provide training and mentorship, provide facilitation, stay abreast of the latest trends in project management, then and serve as a repository for project reports and lessons learned. The existence and rule of PMOs tends to be somewhat fluid. If a PMO is created and greater success is not experienced in organization in which who or you are A project manager or a project team member has a PMO. Try to make good use of the resources available. If you are employed as a resource person in a PMO, remember that your role is not to get in the way and create red tape, but to enable and enhance the success of the project managers and projects within the organization. Kakabuyoy. So thank you for listening, and sorry for the distractions. Thank you.